everybody. Welcome to Screen Less, Play More podcast. I am Cynthia, the founder of ScreenLessPlayMore.com, and I'm very excited. I have Michael McLeod with me today. He is an ADHD and executive function specialist. You may know him from his ADHD parenting podcast, and his company is called GrowNow ADHD. And we are going to talk about issues that affect kids with ADHD, but I find whenever I'm listening to his podcast or listening to his Instagram reels, it really applies to all kids because I have two kids. One has ADHD, one does not. And it really is just great advice for all kids. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and continue to spread this message that is so incredibly pertinent to parents and children of families today. So thank you for all the work you're doing. You know, hosting a podcast is not easy with scheduling and recording and editing. So all the work you're doing on your end to spread this important message. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Oh yeah, thank you. Because I think it's really important. So I kind of got interested in all of this because I noticed how terrible my kids acted whenever I took screens away. And I just thought that there's something not okay here. And I started investigating a little more. How, if at all, do you feel like technology affects neurodiverse ADHD type kids differently than typical kids? Or does it?
It's horrible for ADHD kids, and big tech knows it. Big tech knows that it's our neurodiverse kids, especially our ADHD kids, that get the most hooked. So the biggest thing in today's world is your attention. Attention is the currency. It's not just so much of, getting you to log on to a site or download something and a couple of ads. It's now about how long can you keep someone on a certain page, on a certain app, doing a certain thing. How many hours are you watching YouTube? How many hours are you playing Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft? So, in so many ways, the ADHD brain is the addict brain. So the ADHD brain is ADHD is not an attention disorder. It is an executive functioning developmental delay and an executive functioning developmental disorder. And executive functioning is not time management and organization towards school. It is the most crucial set of skills that any human being can develop, and it is the greatest predictor of success for all human beings. They are our internal self-regulation skills, the ability to regulate your emotions, your language, your body, your behavior. So there's a huge emotional aspect to ADHD, especially for kids and teens. Lots of external behaviors, screaming, yelling, negotiating, manipulating, big behaviors. And then it's also a disorder of self-motivation towards non-preferred tasks. And when you introduce screens into the lives of a neurodiverse ADHD child, that becomes their only preferred task. It becomes their comfort zone where it's screens and there's everything else. There's screens and everything else is non-preferred. If I don't have my phone in front of me, if I don't have my Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, if I don't have my school computer where I can access games and YouTube, I don't feel good. I think most adults out there listening to this, most parents, most adults listening to this podcast can stop, take a deep breath and think to themselves, how much has my phone negatively impacted me? Am I the kind of person that check my phone often when I'm watching TV shows or movies at home, or I check my phone at every red light and I'm constantly looking for notifications and things like that? That's you as an adult with a fully developed brain. Imagine you're a child and your brain is developing until 30 years old and you're neurodiverse, so you have much less self-regulation and self-motivation skills. You introduce a screen to an ADHD child, it's going to become their entire life, and it's going to heavily dysregulate them. It's going to be so much harder to parent that child because anything non-screen based becomes a fight now. Anything that's non-preferred, non-instantly gratifying becomes a fight because screens hardwire their brain towards instant gratification. Everyone knows that ADHD is all about impulsiveness and time blindness. They're stuck in the now. Well, the phone gives them constant dopamine rushes and instant gratification. So the phone is teaching them that instant gratification is what makes me feel good, and everything else sucks.
Yeah.
So if they have a phone in their life, that's all they are ever going to want to do, and it is heavily going to dysregulate them in so many ways, especially when the screen is not in front of their face, and it's going to make parenting that child a heck of a lot harder.
So in a nutshell, what is executive functioning, and how did we always usually develop our executive functioning skills as kids before we had things like phones that were interrupting this?
Beautifully said. Excellent question. So executive functioning skills are basically like the air traffic controller of the brain. So they're basically the ability to, there's 4 pillars of executive functioning. There's self-regulation of emotions, language, body, behavior, self-motivation towards non-preferred, non-instantly gratifying tasks, self-evaluation, the ability to learn from the past and not repeat mistakes, and self-awareness, the ability to recognize, hey, I have an effect on myself and I have an effect on others. So when I do certain things, say certain things, it could negatively impact me and it can negatively impact others and the people around me. I have control over my environment. In the past, we thought that executive function was just time management and organization for school. Messy backpacks, messy folders, messy lockers, messy bedrooms. But what we didn't realize is that, you're going to have a messy backpack and a messy folder unless you are first self-aware that that's a problem. Then you have to be self-regulated and self-motivated enough to do that incredibly boring task of cleaning a backpack, cleaning folders, because it's not instantly gratifying. And then you have to be able to self-evaluate and think to yourself, hey, in 2 periods, I'm going to be in science class. My teacher's going to say, take out your lab notebook. Everyone's going to do it instantly. And I'm going to be the one person, going through dirty, crumpled papers in my backpack. And I'm not going to like the way that feels when everyone's looking at me, not finding my lab notebook. So it's a lack of internal skills. And for decades, we focused on external symptoms like time management, organization. And you don't have that without the internal skills. And one of the biggest things I want all the listeners to come away with on this podcast is executive functions are the greatest predictor of success for human beings. Not IQ, not athletic ability, not grades, not what college you went to, none of that. It is executive functioning skills that help you to move out of your parents' house, get a house, pay the bills, live independently, get a job, keep a job, make friends, keep friends. That's executive functioning, period. And executive functions are developed and strengthened through relationships and experiences. So interpersonal relationships, how many different people can you meet? Can you interact with? Can you build a relationship with? So it's having real face-to-face, constant play and social interactions, not texting, not Snapchatting, not playing Minecraft with someone. Those are not social experiences, period. So many parents out there have convinced themselves, oh, my son will FaceTime, he'll Discord, he'll talk to his friends while he's playing online games. That is not a social experience, period. I'm sorry. End of story. You have to accept that. You have convinced yourself of that to make you feel better about how much games your son plays. It's not a social experience. It does not benefit them. It's not going to help them in the workplace. It's not going to help them at school. They're just playing a game and focusing on the game. It's not a social experience. So it's interpersonal relationships and varied experiences. So the whole point of childhood is to play, 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 explore, explore, explore. And before screens came into our lives, TV was the only screen in the house, and kids would still go outside, ride bikes, skateboard, go to the park, play basketball, play manhunt, play hide and seek, and go to the mall and do things. And have different experiences every single day, which is called a real childhood. Screens make kids sedentary. They make them sit at home. They make them constantly be under their parents' supervision, which leads to parent burnout because the kid is home all the time now. It's not going outside anymore. It's healthy for the parent, for the kid to leave the house every now and then. And it's all about varied experiences and experiencing life and doing new things. But when you bring a phone or a screen into a child's life, they don't want to do varied experiences. They only want to do phone-based things. And that's the problem. That's what Jonathan Haidt talks about in his book, is phones are, in the anxious generation, is screens, and especially smartphones, are experience blockers, experience killers. And if you have an 18-year-old, I don't care if they have a 4.0 and they're the valedictorian, but if they came home from school every day and it was just screens, no varied experiences, they have no chance of being successful, because those grades mean nothing if you are not able to persevere through non-preferred varied experiences.
Yeah. Well said. I mean, screen less, play more.
You got it.
It was like,
that's it.
Amen. When you're saying, let's play. I mean, if you had like a 3-year-old right now, would you just say, let's not do screens at all? Like, what would be your advice for like a 3-year-old versus then what's your advice if somebody's just, oh man, they're already caught in it. They've got the 13-year-old that just will not get off of these screens.
So if it's a baby, a 3-year-old, there's varying types of screens. So like there's varying degrees of how dangerous a screen is. Mm-hmm. So first of all, you have to look at the unique individual child. So like we always get so caught up on like blanketed, generalized guidelines. Uh-huh. Look at this child and look at what dysregulates them. So what I always say is that TV is the lesser of all evils. Is you let them sit there, you let them watch a show, let them sit through the commercials, get rid of YouTube on the smart TVs, because then they'll just watch videos of other people playing video games, which is the same as playing video games. But TV is okay. Parents need a break too. And on those rainy days, those super hot days, those snowy days, it's nice to just plop your kid in front of the TV, watch some Miss Rachel, watch some Blue's Clues,
and it
whatever.
Has a beginning, middle, and an end. And so,
correct.
Like, once it's over, I find that it's way easier to say, okay, guys, the show is over. Time to go take a bath than one of these never-ending type of screens.
Correct. Yeah. So the real problem is the touch screens. Anything involving touch provides an absolute, what I refer to as a dopamine tsunami, where it's just a huge tsunami of dopamine, where it's basically just it's the same thing as pulling a lever on a slot machine, is when you get a touch screen like an iPad or an iPhone. So if they're, below the age of 10, they should not have any access to an iPad or an iPhone. And if you're in a school district that's giving kids, iPads and iPhones, then you need to get out of that district immediately, opt out of it, and storm those school board meetings, because it's insane. And the district I'm in here gives kindergartners iPads, and it's an absolute joke. The only reason they're doing that is because standardized tests are on iPads, and they want the standardized tests to look good so they can get their pensions and feel good about themselves. It's ridiculous. They're frying these kids' brains when they're babies and they should be playing. So it's the touchscreens that are the problem. If you have a child who is just in it and stuck in it and is just super addicted and dysregulated every day, I'm sorry, you're going to have to do something about it. You're going to have to be the bad guy. The number one thing that we try to tell parents to do is to find some help. Whether it's an aunt, an uncle, a neighbor, a social worker, someone, bring someone into the house. The child is far less likely to have really bad behaviors when you remove screens from their life if there's a neutral third party present. Someone who's not mom and not dad, one of those unconditional love relationships. If there's someone neutral there that's not a member of the family, chances are they will stay more calm. They're going to be pissed, and there's nothing you can do about it because they're withdrawing from a drug, and it is temporary. In all my years of doing this since 2016, I have never worked with a single family that eliminated screens or significantly decreased screens and went on to regret it. Every single one of them saw a brand new child who slept better, ate better, conversed better, socialized better, did better at school. These screens are literally frying their brains. And if you are listening to this because you have a screen addicted child, don't keep saying, oh, tomorrow, oh, next month, oh, next year. Do something about it immediately. They're not going to lose friends. They're not going to overindulge later in life when they get the phone back. They're all of these negative cognitive distortions that you are convincing yourself to keep you from having to do the hard thing. Sit down with your spouse, a friend, immediately. Come up with a plan, and you need to remove those screens from that child's life immediately. So, like I'm saying today, come up with a plan immediately and do it, because this problem is not going to go away on its own. You can't just say, "Oh, we live in a screen-filled world. He needs to have screen." talents? No, because AI is going to take care of all that. We're going to need people. We're going to need people with people skills. And you can't avoid the behaviors. That's the number one thing. Is parents are scared of their kids and they're scared of the behaviors. If I remove screens, I'm going to have to call 911. I'm going to have him hospitalized. Maybe you do. Maybe the addiction is that bad. Maybe you do have to get him hospitalized. And we've worked with many parents that have had to call 911 on their child because they go nuts over losing screens. And hey, that's what happens when a drug addict loses their drugs.
Is there any benefit, like, would you say cold turkey, or would you say, okay, we're getting rid of the Xbox, you can watch TV, and it's almost like that downgrades them away from the super addictive, and it's like it's a little by little taking off? Or is it like, do you find that kids just need cold turkey? And if so, I mean, I would assume then you got to replace it with something like, okay, no more screens, but we're going to the zoo. We're going to go do laser tag.
No, because then it becomes a burnout on the parents, where the parents think that they are the entertainment source for their child, and then they get caught in overscheduling and taking them all over the place. You don't need to replace the screen dopamine with another dopamine. You need to send them outside, sign them up for clubs, drop them off at the YMCA, drop them off at the library, contact other like-minded parents. If you can eliminate screens from your child's life at the same time as, someone down the street or someone in your child's class, like, contact those parents and say, hey, let's give these kids a 90s summer. I'm seeing so much research about how healthy this is for the kids. Let's both eliminate tech this summer, and let's get our kids together, and let's both hold each other accountable to this and do this together at the same time. That really eases the tension. But don't put it on your shoulders as the parent to be the entertainment source for your child. That's not what you were meant for. You were meant to guide your child through life, not to entertain them. But in terms of the cold turkey, slow takeaway, what I have found is that when parents slowly take it away, it opens the door for more manipulation, sympathy seeking, and the kids pulling at the heartstrings of, mom, you're taking away my favorite thing, or, mom, dad, you're the worst parents ever. None of my friends' parents are doing this. You're ruining my life. I'm going to lose all my friends. No one's going to like me. I'm not going to have anything to talk about. All everyone talks about is memes and Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft. If I don't have it, I'm not going to have anything to talk about. It's like, and then parents end up keeping it. So what I recommend to parents is just take that Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, gaming computer, and sell it immediately. Go back to GameStop, sell it. Get on Facebook Marketplace, sell it. Get rid of the iPad. You don't need an iPad in your house. If they have a smartphone that you gave to them too early, get rid of it immediately. Cancel the phone plan. Get them a dumb phone, or a Gab phone, a Bark phone, whatever you have to do. I find that doing a cold turkey makes it easier on the parents, and it has a higher success rate.
Okay. Now, if you've got a kid that doesn't necessarily have a full-on addiction, and they're like, okay, I like playing games occasionally, what are your thoughts on, like for example, my two sons like Minecraft, and I really try to limit it, and I'm kind of mad because it was actually a babysitter that introduced Minecraft to them. I never was going to. And so then we have two controllers so that they can both play together. They're in the same room. They're talking to each other. They tend to get about an hour of it a week because I am pretty strict about it.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts? Is it still just garbage to be sitting there in the same room and laughing and talking about it while they're doing it? I mean, obviously you're not really making real friendships if you're on a headset with somebody in a different town. But I don't know. Is it any better to be with your friend in the same room?
Yes. Being with someone in the same room is better. Yes, it is. But, if you are getting kids together face to face, there's literally endless things they can do. They can literally just go walk around the block or go ride bikes, do whatever. The last thing you want to do is just say, oh, yeah, go sit down and game together.
Right.
But also what you just described was true, strong, authoritative parenting with boundaries. They get Minecraft for an hour a week, and they have to play it together. That's you setting that boundary, and you're not overloading them with it. Every single day I talk to a parent where the kid is playing Minecraft every living second outside of school, and they're not sleeping, they're not eating, they're not doing anything, they're not even showering. They're just gaming, scrolling. So if you are a strong enough parent to limit it, your kids are following those limits, listening to those boundaries, and still having varied experiences outside of those games, then you're doing the right thing. You found that balance. That's fantastic, and that's strong parenting. Many parents are beyond the point of setting limits because they've been so permissive in their screen techniques and their screen limitations. And some kids just can't handle it. Some kids get that hour and then go absolutely nuts when that hour is over.
Okay.
If they go nuts when that hour is over, they're communicating to you with their behaviors that they are not ready for that level of stimulation yet.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've listened to your podcast and your Instagram. And by the way, everybody, super duper helpful. Check out his podcast, the ADHD Parenting Podcast. And you talk a lot about Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox. What is it about those that you feel like are worse and or more addictive?
Hey, for all the parents out there, every time I mention those three specific games, when I'm talking to an ADHD parent, they're always like, "Yep, it's always those three every time: Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat." Those are all of the things that are made. Basically, those are the same people that, they consult psychologists when they make those things, and they purposely make them as addictive as possible, and they're made with that same algorithm as TikTok to keep you on. It's always those free to download games. Then you have to save your credit card so you can get the skins and get the upgrades and get this and get that. There's a reason why. It's those three, that deadly triangle of Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, that just sucks in our neurodiverse kids. And our neurodiverse kids are not self-aware, they can't self-regulate, and they can't self-advocate. They can't stop and say, hey, I don't like how this game makes me feel. I don't like how this game is taking over my life. And big tech knows that. They know that these kids can't self-advocate and they're not self-aware. So they basically are preying on these neurodiverse kids, our most vulnerable population in the world, our neurodiverse children that can't self-advocate, and they're throwing addictive drugs at them. And it's those where they know they're highly addictive and they're making them as addictive as possible, and they want as many ADHD kids playing those games as possible.
It's funny when you say that. My boys have grabbed different games off the shelf at the library, and one they found was called Power Washer, and it seriously was just like a simulation of power washing something that was really dirty. And it's very interesting because if they're doing something like that that's just really low key, then it's like, oh, it's time to go, guys. It's like, okay, whatever. But if they're on Minecraft, it's a little more like, oh, I'm not done yet. Wait, I gotta keep going.
You got it.
I'm guessing the Power Washer game doesn't exactly have the algorithms.
Exactly. If we sit and just actually watch our kids every now and then and sort of stop looking at every time kids have behaviors and tantrums, the way parenting has become this science in America now, it's parents' initial reaction to just end the tantrum, end the crying, end the behaviors as fast as possible. But if we actually stop and observe the tantrum a little bit, all behavior is communication, and they're communicating to us, this is a drug. This is really hurting my brain. This is dysregulating me. So instead of just trying to end the tantrum as soon as possible, take a little bit of a deeper look at it and realize, hey, they're communicating something here.
Yeah, this is not good for them, and we need to be the adult and take the drug out of the equation,
because no one else is going to do it.
Yeah.
And this term failure to launch, these young adults who did pretty well in high school but aren't ready for college, aren't ready for work, and just end up in their parents' basement for decades on their screens, on their games, is becoming a very popular thing. And every single parent always says, I wish when he was younger, I just had the courage, I had the strength to get rid of the screens. Well, here we are, screen less, play more, using our free time to educate people on how dangerous screens are. Make that hard choice now so you're not dealing with it later with your young adult child in the basement.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, and I think it ties into the failure to launch of what do you say to the parents that are like, oh, if kids don't have candy, then when they get to college, they're just going to eat candy all the time. And a lot of parents try to make that argument of oh, well, he's just going to go crazy on it in the dorms if I don't let him have that now. Why is that a flawed mentality?
It's because it's 100% incorrect. That's called a cognitive distortion that parents convince themselves of to keep themselves from having to do the hard thing of removing the screens and having their baby upset and mad at them. That's what it is. They tell, why even bother removing the phone or the Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft he's addicted to? Because when he's 18, 19, 20, he's going to finally get it. I'm not going to be able to say no, and he's going to overindulge later. What all of the case studies and all of the science and all of the research shows us is that from birth to 18, if your child has as many varied experiences as possible outside of screens, and the only way to do that is to significantly decrease or eliminate screens. So if you send a child off to college who had a phone in his life and the phone became the center of his life, it's going to continue to be the center of his life in college. If you send an 18-year-old off to college who's wasn't given a phone until, maybe junior or senior year of high school, and parents significantly limited screens, like you would eliminate sugar and candy, and you send them off to college, that child has a brain that is stimulated by music and art and socializing and exercising and podcasts and sports and doing all these great, healthy, positive things. So they have a brain that is stimulated by 10, 15, 20 different things. When they finally get a phone, it's not so tempting to them anymore because their brain likes other things. If you send an 18-year-old to college with his phone, when that phone was the center of their childhood for 18 years, there's no chance of them learning to do other things because that phone is their only level of interest.
Well said. I mean, in terms of ADHD, a lot of our kids that are neurodivergent have 504s and IEPs. Do you think that some of the accommodations that kids are getting is contributing a little to failure to launch? Are they being too accommodated?
Of course, absolutely, 100%. And that's the biggest thing. If we look back on education in the past 10 years, 504s have gone from 5 pages to 50 pages, and IEPs have gone from 50 pages to 100 pages. And this is what these educational advocates and parent Facebook groups are coaching parents to do is never take the word no from your school team. Fight for every goal, fight for every accommodation, fight for every service. When we have to remember these things have to fade over time. That's the biggest problem. There's too many kids that have the same IEP, same 504, same accommodations from kindergarten until graduation day. These things don't fade over time. If the accommodation, the service, whatever, is not applicable to college and career, then it needs to fade away. Okay. So certain things like preferential seating, extended time on tests, being able to take it in a separate room, those things are applicable to college and career. Great.
Because you can still get that same accommodation in college.
Absolutely. And you can even get it in the workplace in many places.
Okay.
That's totally fine. You can get, speech to text, those kinds of things, whatever.
Okay.
But if it's, being able to turn things in late without any points off, no, that's not going to work in college. That's not going to work in the career. If it's, have someone read questions out loud to you on your test, no, that's not going to work. If it's, you need to have your phone on you at all times. You need to have a computer with open access to the internet on you at all times. That's not going to work either. So yes, we are definitely over accommodating our students, and we're seeing that in droves now, where these kids that did very, very well in high school and then applied to college, got accepted for all the right reasons because they had good GPA, good SAT scores with lots of accommodations from the College Board. Then they go off to college freshman year, and those accommodations are no longer applicable. They're not there anymore, and they completely flounder and end up leaving. America leads the world in first semester college dropouts.
Wow.
And many of those kids had an insane level of accommodations in high school. They got accepted to that college because of their grades, but once they were there and there was no mom and dad to sit with them every day doing their homework, there was no teacher giving them one-on-one support because of accommodations, it's not going to happen. And a lot of colleges like to say, oh yeah, we accommodate special needs. We have an Office of Disability Services, Office of Student Services. It's all BS. 95% of colleges don't. It's all part of their marketing to say, oh, we'll cater to you. But once they're actually there on campus, it's sink or swim.
So that's when you really need these executive functioning skills. And would you say as we're weaning off the accommodations, that's like a new skill that you can be teaching them at a time of like, okay, you need to learn how to get this in by the due date. Like, let's work backwards. Let's figure out it's due on Friday.
Correct.
So,
and sometimes the best way to teach kids that skill is for them to experience consequences. So that's one of the biggest things is, with all these accommodations, we've shielded them from consequences, from negative emotions, from feeling bad, from struggle, from those things. Sometimes we learn and gain skills the most in life from the hard times, from the struggle, from the conflict. When we shield kids from having to be a little embarrassed because they didn't turn things in, a little down on themselves because they didn't get so good of a grade, a little down on themselves because things didn't turn out the way they wanted, in school or whatever. Okay, we can't save them from those things. Now, next time you have this opportunity, learn from the past, learn from those past experiences. So really, the best IEP, the best 504 for an ADHD executive dysfunction child is not something filled with accommodations. It's something filled with increased consequences. So if they're late to school every day because the morning routines are a mess, there's more consequences at school.
Okay.
So if you're late 3 times, sorry, you have detention today. Sorry, you got to stay after. Sorry, you have to make up for it by being late. You have lots of missing assignments. Oh, we're not going to wait until the end of the marking period for you to care. We're going to, you need to stay after school today and get this work done. You need to, during this class, you need to come meet with me one-on-one and turn this in. So it's not accommodations. It's actually increased consequences. And Dr. Russell Barkley, the worldwide leader on ADHD, talks about that a lot, is when the best thing for an ADHD person is to have increased, more present consequences.
Very interesting. You have said that big tech says that they make kids the 3 S's, but it really makes kids the 3 D's. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, let's see if I can remember them.
I have them here if you want them.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead.
Social, smart, and safe.
So big tech likes to market their products that, hey, if your child has an iPhone, if you give your kid a phone, you're making them social because they'll have a phone like everybody else. You're making them smart because they have access to these things and they can utilize technology and they no longer have to think for themselves. They're smart with the phone, and it's making them social, smart, and safe. Unsafe. So if they have a phone, they're safe because you can track them all the time and you can, always know where they are and have a GPS on them and an AirTag on them. But in reality, it makes them the 3 Ds,
depressed,
which is
dependent, and dormant.
Depressed. Say it again.
Dependent,
and dormant. There you go. So depressed. So yes. So we are in the middle of the largest youth mental health crisis of all time. So suicide rates, self-harm rates, medication rates, therapy rates, everything. This youth mental health crisis is really, really, really bad. And we're turning a blind eye towards it because we know deep down, it's not the food dyes. It's not this. It's not that. It's all these fake boogeymen we keep creating. You can correlate every major point of this youth mental health crisis to screens. And when Steve Jobs first had that press conference of we're calling it the iPhone, that's when the youth mental health crisis started. And then you have Facebook and the like button and Instagram and Reels and TikTok and all of those things showing spikes in the mental health crisis. So that's really what it is. So it's making them depressed. So screens make kids depressed. We all know it's true. We just don't want to admit it because then that would involve us having to take the screens away, and those sorts of things. It makes them dormant. It keeps them still. It keeps them from exercising. It keeps them from playing. It keeps them from going outside. It keeps them from having a childhood. Depressed, dormant, and what was the other one?
Dependent.
Dependent. Yeah, it keeps them dependent. It keeps them from developing executive functioning skills, which are independent skills, and it keeps them dependent on you. So when they're 18, 19 years old and they're not able to do age-appropriate things, it's probably because they had a screen-filled childhood.
Well, and it's interesting. You mentioned Steve Jobs. That makes me think of Bill Gates. And I read Bill Gates' autobiography that he put out a few months ago, and I find it fascinating. His childhood is the kind of childhood you would wish for every child. He had an amazing school with really small classes, obviously zero computers because they didn't exist in the way that they exist now. I mean, his school had a computer lab, which is why he was able to start coding and learning all this stuff. But it wasn't the types of computers we're talking about now. It was like he had to actually do a lot of math and everything to be able to learn how to code those computers. But he was like in scouting and did tons of hiking and had really good friendships. And his parents forced him to be more social, because he admits now that he probably would be called autistic if he were tested now. And he says all he ever wanted to do was sit in his room and read. But like, mind you, he was reading. So nowadays he would just probably be locked up in there doing a phone. And so even though he was being antisocial, he was reading and reading and reading. One of the reasons he's so smart. And his parents, though, were like, no, you're not just going to do that. They made him come to dinner parties with their adult friends, made him have conversations. His grandma played cards with him, just all this stuff. And that's what you're talking about. Like, these are the executive functioning skills. You learn how to go on a hike that's really painful and you have a blister and it's cold and it's raining and you get through it and you feel really good about yourself at the end. You didn't just sit there playing Fortnite for 7 hours.
There you go. That's literally exactly it. So this argument that kids need as many screens as possible to be prepared for a screen-filled life, all you adults right there, so many adults right now that have a job that requires them to be on a computer pretty much 8 hours a day, chances are you didn't have a smartphone growing up because they didn't exist.
Right.
And you definitely didn't have ed tech at school and a personal laptop in elementary, middle, and high school. And, you look at the childhood of, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these, geniuses in the tech field. Many of them had authoritative parents with varied experiences who held them accountable with boundaries, and they had really minimal screens in their childhood. And there's a reason why these tech titans who are creating these addictive technology don't give it to their kids.
Exactly.
And they send their kids to screen-free schools. So they know something we don't. Actually, in reality, we do know it. We just don't accept it because that involves us having to hurt our kids' feelings.
Right. Well, and you bring up the ed tech, and as I told you, I try so hard to limit screens at our house, and then I send them to school, and they are on the screen for most of the day, starting in kindergarten, like you said.
Yep.
And, I have talked to the administration, and I'm trying to give them as much research and information as possible, and we'll see where that goes. But it's, I'm finding that they tell me about these different games that they do, and everything is gamified. And so they're getting that dopamine, and now everything else is boring. I don't want to do that. So can you talk about the benefits of being bored, and what do we say to our child who comes up, I'm bored, like especially during the summer?
Yep. So first, thanks for mentioning ed tech. It is the worst thing to ever happen to education ever, and that's saying something because our education system has been broken for a long time. But ed tech is absolutely horrible in every possible way. All of the data now, it's been about 10 years since it started, and all of the data shows that it's been horrible. Test scores are down, engagement is down, school anxiety is up, school refusal is up. It's been an absolute mess, but no one's going to do anything about it because it's all about money. It's not about kids. It's about money. So the whole thing with I'm bored, boredom is like going to the gym for your brain. Boredom is when you're bored, you use your imagination. And what's a fancy term for your imagination? Executive functioning. And when you're bored, you talk to yourself. You have an internal private dialogue. And both of those things are known as nonverbal and verbal working memory. Visual imagery, the mental movies of the brain, and verbal working memory is the self-directed talk system, the ability to talk to yourself and guide your behavior through your self-stated intentions. Okay. And those are the foundation to all executive functioning skills. So when you are bored, you practice executive functions. Okay. There's a reason why no one talked about mindfulness when we were all kids. And this wasn't a term of mindfulness and be so mindful because we were all amazing at it because we were always bored and we used our creativity, we used our imaginations. There's a reason why kids today have to practice mindfulness, have to practice self-soothing, and have to do all these kids yoga and mindfulness classes and socio-emotional learning because they're not bored. And if they don't learn to be bored, it's going to be very hard for them to deal with young adulthood and all the other obstacles in life. So when your kid comes to you and says, I'm bored, the last thing you need to do is bring attention to it and try to solve their boredom. If you do that, you are doing your child a disservice. If they come to you and say, I'm bored, then chances are you're doing something right as a parent because you are limiting tech and your house does not look like a casino or an arcade. So you're doing a great job there, and you're providing boredom for your child. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give them. So you can say, hey, I have some chores for you to do if you want to be bored, or you just send them outside and let them learn to self-regulate through boredom.
I feel like there's a reason why people come up with their best ideas now in the shower, because it's the only time they don't have their phone.
Well, there you have it.
The only time you're letting your mind
Perfectly
wander.
said.
And, there's countless examples of people through the ages who came up with an amazing invention or the idea for their book or the whatever because they were quote unquote bored. They were staring out the window on a bus. They were sitting in a hammock, whatever. It's like we're robbing our children of the opportunity to come up with ideas.
Exactly.
And, especially even that now they're going to be like, what's my idea for this paper? Oh, let me just type it into ChatGPT and see if that has an idea for me. Like, it's so sad. I'm so afraid for art and music and literature in the future. If nobody's going to be bored, nobody's going to have aha moments, and everybody's going to be counting on AI, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why we got to have at least some of these parents say, no, we got to stop this and please be bored.
Yeah, this AI thing is very, I think most adults are pretty scared about how AI is going to come for our jobs. It's a very, very scary thing. And think of how even scarier it is for our kids.
Yeah.
And, even before AI, the job market was very shaky for kids because so many of them were so unemployable because they couldn't be bored and they were screen addicted and they didn't have real skills outside of being able to study, take a test, or be on screens. But now with the future of AI and, needing people skills, needing social skills, those kinds of things, it's a very scary thing. And, parents, the greatest gift you can give your child from birth to 18 is a screen-free childhood with varied experiences. And that is becoming more and more important every single day.
Yeah. As far as ADHD kids, you have said that if the screen is not in front of them and they're not getting a dopamine tsunami from a screen, then they're going to get it through conflict. Can you talk about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So those are the two main things, the instant gratification brain that is always looking for the path of least resistance. So screens. So what parents of kids with ADHD are always so caught up on, how do I just get my kid to do the task? How do I get them to clean his room? How do I get them to do homework? How do I get them to do morning routine, evening routine, whatever? How do I get my kid to do the thing? Well, the first thing you have to look at is, are they taking the path of least resistance? And number one is screens. So if screens are in their environment, they are going to choose it 1,000 times out of 1,000. So if their phone is there, video games are there, TV is there, computer is there, YouTube's there, they're going to choose that over anything you ask them to do. So you control your environment. You don't control your child. So make sure it's a screen-free environment and you're setting yourself up for much more success. But if screens are not available to them, conflict is available to them. And the ADHD brain is the conflict-seeking brain. They get stimulated, they get dopamine from negative attention. So if you go to your child and say, hey, go put your shoes on, what's more stimulating to them? Putting their shoes on and hearing a quick, good job, buddy, or not putting their shoes on and having their parents chase them around for 2 hours to put their shoes on. That's much more stimulating. That sense of control, that sense of your parents' emotions and their behaviors are in the palm of your hands. So they love that sense of control. They love that sense of manipulation over their parents. It's not a character flaw. It's not saying they are malicious or they're bad kids. I always have to say this for some reason, but no, they're not bad kids. It's not a character flaw. They're simply doing what works. They're doing they're doing what makes their brain feel good. And and conflict makes their brain feel good. It makes them feel like they're in control and they're getting instant gratification. And with ADHD, they're missing cause and effect thinking and perspective taking skills. They can't easily understand the thoughts and feelings they're giving other people. If it's giving them dopamine, it feels good, that's it. They don't recognize, hey, this is really hurting mom's feelings. This is really hurting dad's feelings. They're not malicious at all. They're just looking for the conflict because it feels good.
So you just basically ignore their bait, or like how do you deal with it when they're like, I don't want to put on my shoes, and they run across the room?
You get away from them as fast as you can. So it's every parent's instinct to lecture, watch over them and be with them until they do it. You need to learn how to say a prompt, get away, and not be involved. That's why you have to control the environment, make sure they're not getting distracted by screens and video games and those sorts of things. And then you say a prompt one time, set that expectation, and get away from them. That we've had so much success with parents. Morning routines are just like so anxiety producing to ADHD parents. Morning routines to get kids to school on time. The parents that have gained the strength to sit downstairs, not prompt, wait in the car, just not be involved, not watch every step, those are the parents that see success. Those are the parents that make morning routines actually quite fluid and quite positive and quite productive. So parents that learn not to get pulled into the argument vortex, the negotiation vortex, the negative attention-seeking vortex. That's the biggest thing, is learning not to get involved. Because the second you start talking, the second you start looking at your child, the second you start engaging with them, you are inviting them to an argument. So there's nothing the ADHD child wants more than the stage, the spotlight, the microphone, all focus on them, all control on them. So you unplug their brain from negative attention stimulation. You detox their brain from negative attention stimulation by walking away, stop talking. Language makes dysregulation worse. The more you talk, the more control you're giving your child.
I love this advice to just walk away, because as we all know as parents, our kids are eventually going to follow us. They want to be where we are. So that's another good tip of like, if you want your kids outside, go outside yourself. Don't just say, hey guys, go play. Just like walk outside yourself and start mowing the lawn or something, and they're going to follow you. So I love your advice of wait in the car.
Yeah.
Because I definitely find myself getting caught in the like, come on guys, come on, shoes, let's go. And I'm pushing instead of pulling, basically. Like I should just sit in the car and wait for a couple minutes, and eventually they'll be like, wait, where did Mom go? I guess it's time for us to get into the car.
And parents have been taught to monitor every single situation and give a prompt and have it be followed immediately. Parents need to gain the strengths themselves to say the prompt one time, say what's expected one time, and get out of there. You are constantly observing your child and being there. You are opening the floor for behaviors.
And I have to say, what has also helped is years ago when we had like a pretty long time in the morning before school started, they would watch a show while they were eating breakfast. And it was so hard to get them in the car. So we don't do any screen time whatsoever during the school week. And
Excellent.
That helped so much. So tip for everyone, if they don't have screens going on in the morning, it's going to be 1 billion times easier to get them into the car. Because my boys will come downstairs and they'll basically do whatever's on the table. So if there's a book sitting on the table, they're going to start reading a book. If there's a board game on the table, they'll start playing each other with the board game. But it's 1 billion times easier to say, guys, put down the Monopoly, instead of, guys, let's stop watching the screen in the middle of the show.
Yep.
What would you tell to the parents that tend to use a screen to stop a tantrum or try to calm down a stressed kid? Oh, here, just watch my phone for a minute.
That is one of the absolute worst things you can do, because you're teaching your child they can only self-regulate through a screen. And you are sending your child a message, you're too much, shut up, take this screen, I can't handle you right now, which is the last message a child needs to receive. And that is a great example of a parent who parents for the moment, not for the future. So you're giving them a screen to stop the tantrum now. You're inviting yourself to more tantrums later.
Well said. So basically it's just, they're having a tantrum. They need to just sit with that feeling, right? And just deal with that feeling. And
100, that's called self-regulation. And that's how they learn to self-regulate. If they can only self-regulate through a screen, then you're screwed.
Well said again.
Mm-hmm.
This is like very specific in terms of ADHD and just living day to day, but I know that ADHD people like to keep things in piles, because actually I myself was diagnosed just a couple months ago, but I absolutely am one of those people that likes piles, and I have so many piles of stuff.
So I
don't want to put it away, because if I can't see it, I can't know where it is. However, I'm trying to teach my boys to clean their rooms. And okay, if it's Saturday morning, it's time to clean your room. And my son that has ADHD says, I can't put my stuff away because if I don't see it, I don't know where it is. And part of me thinks, ooh, I completely know what you're talking about, buddy, because my kitchen is a mess because I have piles everywhere. But I also want to teach him the concept of here's the skill of how to clean a room so that you know how to do it when you're 25. How would you walk that tightrope?
That's really it is, they're only going to learn to do it if they experience it. So they need to be able to, parents need to gain the internal strength to recognize, yeah, my son or my daughter is going to be mad at me. Sometimes I have to be the bad guy. Some battles are worth fighting. Sometimes I have to fight the fight. So much of the parenting BS pseudoscience out there is every time your child's uncomfortable, they're traumatized and you're hurting them and you're being a bad parent. And there's so much perfectionism parenting information out there that parents think that there needs to be a harmonious relationship at all times between mom, dad, son, brother, everything, sibling fighting, everything. Everything has to be harmonious at all times, which is nonsense. All of those parenting experts you see on Instagram, they have lots of fights going on in their house constantly every single day. Just like you do. So if you want them to gain the skills, we're all forgetting the main reason for parenting is so that our kids can have a better life than we had before them. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that, because we have to remember, we're not going to be around forever. The day is going to come when we're not going to be around and our kids are going to be without us. And that's our goal for parenting, is to always remember that we're not going to be here forever. And when we're gone, what skills do our kids have to be successful without us?
So it's really like, just suck it up and here's a skill you need. And like, I understand that this is tough for you, but it's something that you can do if you practice it.
That's how human beings work. We human beings are capable of anything, ADHD or not. ADHD kids are highly capable. They can gain skills and they can do great things. They are capable of great success. If you are an ADHD parent, you should have lots of ADHD hope from this presentation, from this podcast. So you should understand, yes, my kid can do anything, but the only way to do that is for them to practice it. So it's not, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. It's, I'm a beginner, I haven't done it yet. Let me do it a bunch of times, and now I'm confident and competent. The only way to do that is by them doing it. So that's why varied experiences is the name of the game.
That segues perfectly into my next question, which I try to ask everybody at the end. I feel like part of this entire screen less, play more philosophy is, like you're saying, kids need to do things for themselves. They need some more independence. They need to know that they're capable of executing X, Y, and Z before they leave the nest. So I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share a memory from childhood or young adulthood when you remember doing something by yourself without parents.
Wow. That's a really good one. Oh, man. That is a really,
I feel like it's happening a lot later than it used to.
Yeah, I remember going on I lived probably like an hour and a half away from Montauk in Long Island, which is a great fishing spot. And I remember, senior year of high school going on just all of a sudden being like, hey, and it was in winter. So it was cod fishing in the winter. So I remember my friend and I just got the idea to do it. And we went out and did it, and we had an unbelievable, great experience. And if I had asked my mom, she would have been like, no, you're not doing that. You're not going on a boat in the winter on ice to go fishing for cod, that kind of stuff. But we went out and did it, and it's a memory my friend and I still talk about. And all the parents listening to this, think about, what do you remember from birth to 18? It's not going to be the grades, it's not going to be the morning routines, the evening routines. It's going to be the things you did with friends that were social, varied, without your parents. So make sure you're giving those experiences to your child.
Absolutely. So you were actually on like a frozen lake?
Oh yeah, that's cod fishing is in the winter. So we went on a boat, like it was freezing.
Like a rowboat,
we went on
or like?
Oh no, a huge like fishing boat.
Did you rent it?
You buy a ticket and you go on the boat with like 100 other people.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
So we were on there and we did it, and it's something we still talk about today. And like we didn't catch anything, we didn't like nothing like that, but we just had a really incredible time, and it was great inside jokes and everything.
Right, and it would have been different had your parents been there.
Oh, of course. I wouldn't have even done it. They would have convinced me not to do it and stay home and just be safe. And that's a horrible idea. Don't do it. It was a horrible idea, but we did it anyway.
And it was super fun. You've got that's another thing is it bonded you with your friends and it gave you a really great memory.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And that's one thing I'm learning now as I'm getting older. I'm 38 now. And, as I travel and go to cities and, one of the great blessings of this job and being an ADHD specialist is I get to travel the country and travel to all these cities and states and countries that I never would have gone to go train these random school districts and private schools and charter schools and religious schools and train them on the most up-to-date research on executive functioning and being able to travel with my coworkers who have become my brothers and my sisters and my friends and being able to go to these random towns. It's been one of the greatest blessings of my life.
Oh, that's so fun. So how can people learn more about what you do? And there's like classes and coachings and trainings and what sort of website should we go to find you?
Sure. So my website is GrowNow ADHD.com. You can learn more about our executive functioning coaching, our internal skills training for students. We work with students of all ages, all grade levels, and we do lots and lots of parent training. So if you're telling yourself, oh, my son will never agree to coaching, then you just do parent training. So we do lots and lots of parent training, which is the number one recommendation for ADHD and executive functioning, not cognitive behavioral therapy or talk therapy or counseling or play therapy. It's parent training. So we do lots of parent training. We do lots of social groups and social executive functions. We run lots of summer camps throughout the summer. And my personal role is I travel the country and internationally training schools, school districts, and various groups of organizations and professionals on the most up-to-date research on ADHD and executive functions. So go to the website, fill out the form. You'll get the Calendly link. You'll speak directly with me, and we can schedule something together.
Sounds good. And again, check out his Instagram because it is super helpful. He gives all sorts of reels with tons of advice and information. What's your Instagram again?
It's GrowNow ADHD.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. So much fantastic advice, and I hope people implement it.
And thank you so much for having me. So thank you for doing what you're doing. It's running a podcast is very, very hard, and especially on such a controversial topic, but you're doing incredible work. So kudos to you for everything you're doing.
Thank you for listening to Screen Less, Play More podcast. If you like what you hear, please tell your friends and please rate and review us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen. That really helps other people find us and helps us get the word out. A special thanks to WJD, who does all of our IT, and Neil Penninger, who composed our theme music. Please also check out screenlessplaymore.com for research about kids and tech, some ideas on getting kids outside playing and away from screens, book recommendations, and so much more.